Ready for some more of the Purim story? Okay, but Mordecai would not bow down to Haman. Jews worship no man, only God, who is one. That's in quotation marks, but Jews worship no man, only God, who is one. So that's how you can tell that Mordecai is speaking. Furious, Haman cried, since he refused, quotation marks, since he refused, I'll tell Ahasuerus to kill all the Jews, unquote. End of Haman speaking. I will, oh wait, no, it's not the end. It's not the last quote. I'm looking way down at this. This Haman continues. I will first choose a day for the deed to be done by throwing a pur, said the evil Haman. Why is Haman suddenly dressed differently than he was over here? And there's Mordecai over here. He's again refusing to bow down another time when Haman comes around. Haman was pleased to be honored by Queen Esther. That's this book. What's going on with Haman was pleased to be honored with Queen Esther? And why is Haman dressed so very differently in this book? Why does he have a hat on his head that sort of looks like a Hamantaschen, but not in this version of the story? And do people dress this way back 2,500 years ago? Maybe they dressed like this or this, but I'm not sure. But this to me looks more like a uniform that military men might have worn maybe 150 years ago, around about the 1870s. See, the more you learn about history, the more you can learn how to identify people's clothing and the scenes and then ask questions. I think this certainly looks like a desert scene. We didn't really see a whole lot of desert scenes in this book, did we? We mostly saw pictures of life in the big city of Shushan, which was the capital of the Persian Empire. Would you like to see what the Persian Empire looks like? Well, that's where you need to turn to a map. And this is a map of the Persian Empire. And it's showing, wow, I guess these lines here where stuff looks like it's all filled in. I'm not sure about this part of Africa, but a lot of what you're seeing here was considered the Persian Empire back about 2,500 years ago, which, remember, was at the same time when ancient Greece was becoming a big civilization. And so somewhere under all these piles and piles of books that I have about the ancient world and about women's history and everything that ties in with the Queen Esther story and Purim, somewhere I have a book about the Persian War. Remember, Xerxes here. That's another name for Ahasuerus, and he's the same one that attacked the Greeks. And I have here, let me see if I can find it. Oh boy, one more try. It's a little paperback volume. It's called I forget what the title is, but well, let's see. This is the title of the book where I got the map. And this is another one about the Bible. This is one about the Near East, 10,000 years of history. It's not necessarily just written from a biblical point of view. It's written from the point of view of the ancient world. But see, grown-ups have a lot of different points of view, and these are just a few. These are just things that'll fit on my desk. I mean, if you go to some big scholarly library, you'll see all kinds of things, and not to mention, of course, there are all kinds of things online. I found my Herodotus. See? This is Herodotus. He wrote about the Persian War, the history of the Greek and Persian War. Now, I think that this is a very abridged version, which means it's a very shortened version. I think that he wrote he did a lot of writing, but he was one of the first Western or so-called Western writers to write history with an attempt at truth. Centuries have passed. The mighty nations he depicts are now dust. But his work remains as one of the greatest monuments of literature. One of the great monuments of literature. Okay, well, when it says Western writers, doesn't necessarily mean West like the Wild and Woolly West with all the cowboys and what some people called Indians, but were really indigenous people. No, they mean the whole Western hemisphere of the globe is what's usually meant. Well, anyway, there are a lot of retellings of ancient history. Herodotus talks about this guy and calls him Xerxes. In the Bible and biblical books, he probably is referred to as Ahasuerus. And these are not necessarily religious. I think this one is more scholarly, and it's just looking at the scholarly point of view. This one is more personal, so maybe this guy was more religious. The first 5 books of Moses, so that's not actually the story of Queen Esther came later, but it may have some stories about some of the areas. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to look at it. The point is, you got to evaluate information, and you can start kids out by doing that. I mean, look, you have these two pictures from 2 different books of side by side. Let's get these lined up side by side with good handling of the book covers and pages. Okay, side by side, there's Mordecai refusing to bow down to Haman. See the guys in the orange hats. And Mordecai is the one standing next to all the other folks bowing down. Haman's on the horse. Over here, Mordecai is saying, no, I won't bow down. He's crossing his arms. Haman is gritting his teeth and wagging his finger. He's not going to stop at wagging his finger. And I said, why is Haman wearing something that looks like a military man from a much later age? Still a long time ago, but the 1870s, so not thousands of years ago. Why is he doing that? Well, it's kind of a cartoon. We were going to do the second half of the Queen Esther and King Haman's story and the Mordecai and Ahasuerus story. I could do more in this book, or I could do more in this book. I think we're going to do more. We're going to pick up from it in this book, which is a Purim Story by Linda Davis, illustrated by Y.E. Taub. So I'm going to start by trying to have pictures in both books that are similar in telling the story, but I'm actually going to read the story from this one. And you notice Queen Esther's got a very different kind of outfit in this. She's got a puffy skirt with a really drawn-in waist and some puffy sleeves. It looks old-fashioned, but boy, what about her outfits in this book? So this just goes to show there are different ways to tell the story. Let me see another Queen Esther outfit. This is one. She's on this fancy couch. She's wearing a pink dress, but it's not with a puffy skirt. She's got really big jewelry. So that looks more like what I'm used to seeing in pictures from ancient days from this place and time than this does. This looks more like a cartoon. I think this has got more kid appeal, and so this might be a way to start elementary school kids on the story of Purim, but it's still got some serious and scary parts, just not as many as these, and it's told in a catchy way with rhymes and stuff. Let's go on from there. Well, Haman, I will choose a day for the deed to be done. By throwing a purr, said the evil Haman. He used to, in parentheses, He used to throw purr like dice in a game, and that is how Purim acquired its name. The day that comes up is the date we will use, says Haman, to kill Mordecai and the rest of the Jews. So he went to the king, Ahasuerus. Hey, Ahasuerus' name is spelled differently here. Look at this. Oh, wow. You'll have to check out this book if you want to really practice spelling Ahasuerus with all these letters and syllables and stuff like that. Over here, Ahasuerus spelled like this. So that's something you find a lot, I think, in the further back you go in history. You'll have different recountings of things, different spellings. Maybe we're starting to find different, more varied tellings of things again as we go forward into the future. What's in the future now will become history someday. There are so many people accounting for it that, once again, we live very far apart from each other. We could live on different sides of the world from each other. We could write things down on a piece of paper. We could write them on social media. We have all different ways of telling and spelling and drawing pictures and making things up that aren't even true and well. Speaking of which, Haman made up something that wasn't true. So he went to the king. Ahasuerus agreed. The 13th of Adar was the day they decreed. Now that is a month that is still on the Jewish calendar, but it corresponds with February or March. Okay, let's read on. Okay, there is Queen Esther. She's wearing a dress from about 100, 200 years ago. Women who were rich might have worn dresses like this. Meanwhile, Ahasuerus, well, he's crying. Can you guess what's going on? You think they found out about the story? So, perturbed and distressed, Queen Esther then said, I must help them out, though I might wind up dead. Remember who she's helping out? The Jews who are being threatened by being killed by Haman. So it talks about that in this book. Even though this is a cartoon book, it might be scary for some sensitive children. So it's good. Even if your kids are bigger, they might be sensitive. Even if they're well into elementary school. Boy, I know I was when I found out that Purim, is not just about dressing up and eating Hamantash, and it's about this whole story here with all this killing that could have been possible. So it's good for parents and kids to talk over these things, and I'm here to help. For although she was queen, Esther never forgot that she was a Jew, and their purr was her lot. Tell the Jews, said Queen Esther, not to eat, not a thing, for 3 days and 3 nights, and then I'll plead with the king. Okay, now that's called fasting when you don't eat. The reason why Esther fasted is kind of more on the religious side, so you can find out about that on your own if you want. Meanwhile, now here's the part we have not gotten to in this book, because I'm picking up the story from this book. Okay, remember how there was the plot against King Ahasuerus, and there's Mordecai, our hero in the bright orange, and he's hearing the bad guys plot, and that's even before Haman comes around. Okay, well, guess what? This story over here picks up and tells what happened after all these bad guys were doing all their bad plots. So meanwhile, one night when the king could not sleep, he asked for the history books that kings keep. He read there how Mordecai warned of a plot. Had he been rewarded? No, he had not. So the king asked himself, now what should we do to honor a man who's so loyal and so true? Okay. Do you think that back in biblical days, back 2,500 years ago, that they had teddy bears I don't know. I've never heard they do, but I'm pretty sure they didn't have lamps that looked like this. They had lamps, just not ones that looked like that. You can look at pictures of, say, ancient times, and you'll find pictures in books like these. And if you read enough books about ancient times, you'll probably find pictures of what lamps used to look like. They did not have electric light, which is what my lamps have and what probably this lamp in this picture has. No electric light yet. Okay, you can read about electric light. That's another good thing. Teddy bears, probably not. You can read about teddy bears, all kinds of things that you can read about. In fact, I don't even think books had spines like this one, or for that matter, this one, which is the Purim Story that we're reading right now. So, the king asked himself, now what should we do to honor a man who's so loyal and so true? Okay, now remember how I keep talking about evaluating information? Keep remembering that, because it's going to come in handy pretty soon in the story of Purim. At that very moment, look who's back. The guy with the Hamantashen hat. Who is he? Oh, and what is this thing he's got? This is kind of a scary thing. We'll see. I think it looks kind of scary, even if I didn't know what it was, and I do. At that very moment, someone knocked at the door. 'Twas none other than Haman, who'd come to ask for the king's royal permission to hang Mordecai. Remember the willful and stubborn guy who's starting to cry, but who held his head high like H-I-G-H, high? When all the others bowed when Haman came by? Okay, B-Y? Okay, that's me making up my own rhymes. I really like the rhyming scheme of this book, though. 'Twas none other than Haman who'd come to ask for the king's royal permission to hang Mordecai high on a gallows that reached toward the sky. This is a gallows. Maybe you've seen pictures elsewhere, like in old westerns or stuff. But first the king asked him, what would you do to honor a man who's been loyal and true? Now who is the king thinking of? Anybody in particular? He read there. Remember, the king read how Mordecai had warned of a plot. Had he been rewarded? Oh no, he had not. So the king was asking himself, now what should we do to honor a man who's so loyal and true? Does the king know what Haman's up to? He knows that what the king knows so far is that Haman wants to hang Mordecai. I wonder if the king is thinking to himself, gee, who should I trust? Mordecai was a good guy when he saved me from that other evil plot, by those two guards who were going to kill me. But maybe now Haman is telling the king Ahasuerus, right there, that's how he's pictured in this book, something bad about Mordecai that maybe the king will think is true. Maybe the king will think, well, Mordecai is not such a good guy. Maybe he's also plotting against me. A king could think that way because, boy, kings get plotted against a lot. And, well, that's kind of why I think that people who could have been kings and queens maybe should be happy that they're not. Or people who could have been evil masters of the world, dictators with a lot of power, maybe might not want to. It's just not a job that everybody's cut out for. You have to be brave. You have to have a lot of nerve. It's not being brave in a good way, but you have to have a lot of nerve to not mind all these people who might try to kill you if you're the big shot, because they all want to be the big shot, or because they resent the way you rule over them, or stuff like that. So, when you're the king, you have a lot of reason to be nervous. When you're a high political official like Haman, You also have reason to be nervous, but Haman doesn't realize that. He's about to find out. Okay, so that's a little about the plot, and that's a little about politics that you can start to think about how to tell kids about. But I like this rhyming scheme. So the king does ask Haman, what would you do to honor a man who's been loyal and true? Not having heard what had been said before, Haman thought it was he whom the honors were for. So Haman was really not knowing the things that he might have wished he knew, right? Did you ever wish later on that you knew something at the time when you made your decision that you didn't know at the time when you made a decision? Oh, I don't know. It could be some little thing like that it was going to take longer to get to school or work than usual, and you'd have to start, and you wish you would start out earlier. Or it could have been, gee, if I don't brush my teeth after eating all that yummy, sticky Hamantaschen, maybe mom and dad are right. Maybe I will get cavities and I'll have to sit in the dentist chair for a long time. Maybe I better brush my teeth after eating that Hamantaschen. Maybe I better save some Hamantaschen for later and go for a walk now. Or, any yummy thing, Halloween candy, or, I don't know, like 4th of July, apple pie, go run around before the fireworks start, whatever. When you hear about something, it's always good to find out things for yourself. It takes time, but it's worth it. Well, Haman didn't do that. Oh, guess what? Look who's pulling the horse, and look who gets to ride on the horse. Let him wear the king's robes. This is Haman, who's suggesting what you should do to honor somebody, and Haman thinks he's going to be honored. He doesn't know. This picture comes after these words. The words come first. Let him wear the king's robes, ride the king's horse, wear his crown. Have a servant announce as he's led through the town, the king's friends are honored in this special way. Ahasuerus agreed, will do as you say. For the Jew Mordecai, who sits at my gate, Haman burned up with rage, for his envy was great. And now he winds up leading Mordecai around. Mordecai gets to ride the horse. We're going to stop here, and the Haman's problems aren't over, and actually also the Jewish people's problems aren't over. How are we going to stop Haman from going through with his horrible plan to kill all the Jews? There's lots more suspense, and we're going to find out what this picture is all about and why Ahasuerus looks surprised, and there's Haman. What's Haman thinking? Let's find out in a moment.